I do want to get into some of the things that you talk about regularly and we talk about weekly. A government shutdown. What government shutdown? I know about it. You know about it. Most of this country has no idea about the government shutdown, and we've already averted it, so we don't have to have a distraction for the political season. We don't have to discuss it. So, yeah, Fed lowering the interest rate. We dug into that last week. One of my problems with that whole thing, the Fed is data dependent. Right? I mean, the Fed, they're forward looking. All the data is flawed. So when you're data dependent and you're using flawed data, isn't that kind of a broken system?
Yeah, what's so funny is Jay Powell admitted it last week when he cut the rates 50 basis points. He literally said, well, the government's jobs data, it's not right. It's not right. But yet somehow, yeah, they're data dependent. They're supposed to be looking forward. They're always looking backwards, and of course, that means all you can do is be reactive instead of proactive. But let's face it, the central bank, the people that have run the Fed, they've thrown in the towel. Alan Greenspan, you go back to the late 90s, during the good old times, the debt was $4 trillion, $5 trillion. We're going to pay it off by 2010. Well, now look at it. The debt's almost $35.5 trillion. No one talks about balanced budgets. The Fed left interest rates at zero for 15 years. What kind of economic policy is that? That's suicide. We have inflation, and the Fed now is cutting rates with GDP, according to the data, is 3%, and the unemployment rate's only at 4.2. That would have been, we need to raise rates in any other environment, but now they need to lower rates. And JR, they put themselves in a box. There's no good choice for them. They could have either fought inflation and tried to rein in the money supply and crash the economy, or what it looks like they've decided to do, let's just print money and print a lot of it, and we'll blow it all up, and then we'll bring in digital money later.
Oh, man. I mean, that's one of the things we've been railing on that. We were 2.5 years ago when we started, we were hitting that executive order 14067. We're trying to explain to people that they have a plan. I mean, you talk of them being reactive, not proactive. I'll tell you what, when it suits them, they are very much reactive. The central bank digital currency. We're watching Wyoming right now and how close they are to having their own. I mean, Fed now. We're watching all this stuff. We don't know how else it ends. I mean, obviously the big BRICS meeting on October 22nd, 3rd, and 4th. So this is insane, though.
Yeah, that's a big deal. De-dollarization's a real thing. The BRICS, especially over the last 2 weeks, they've released a lot of information about their bridge payment system that they're running through the Bank of International Settlements. They're tokenizing, and now they're just debating. I think what we're going to see is the framework of how that currency is going to look. There's going to be the basket of BRIC nations with their own currency. They're talking about a percentage of that basket is going to be gold backed. Right now, there's people are throwing around 40%. I think that would be wonderful for me. I don't think that's mathematically possible, but we're going to see all of these nations. And by the way, there's 34 countries that have asked to join the BRICS on top of the 11 that are already part of the BRICS. And people just need to understand what those countries are trying to do is they just want to hold less dollars. And how do they hold the dollars? They hold it in treasuries. We need to sell trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And all of a sudden, half the world doesn't want to buy as many anymore. It creates this unique problem, which is why you see the Fed just going in for money printing, because what else can they do?
Right. Well, and I read something to the effect of what you just said. I read 40%, and then the other 60% will be their own currencies. Everything I've read says the dollar's out of it. We are done. So this is Bretton Woods. I mean, this is the end of our reign. And Saudi Arabia taking off, we're off the 50-year compact. I mean, it's all coming at once. And I wear a tinfoil hat. I mean, a lot of my life is, I'm 20 years into thinking we're going the wrong direction. So, I mean, I'm really thinking that when everything hits, it's, let me put it this way. Anthony came into the practice 6 years ago. He came in so one day I could go out. It's a 4th generation family practice. And he came in thinking, well, you've been nervous my whole life. there's always something to worry about. You worry too much. Well, at once he started, when he was in the office long enough, he started researching and he realized, there's a lot on the table. My point to him was, you're absolutely correct. There's always something to worry about. Never this many. I mean, I think there's 10 things to worry about at once, and they're all hitting us. If you've ever heard the show where we talked about the 10 pillars, we talk about 10 things to worry about. We got it from a client named Roger. He said, give me 10 things to watch. So we made a list. The thing that's missing from the 10 things, black swan events. I mean, we're missing things that nobody's watching. And this is crazy. This doesn't end well. My problem is, I think we're at the beginning of the end right now, and it's going to hit us fast. I mean, we talk on the show about things, with current events, Haitians and Venezuelan gangs, and I mean, all the stuff we talk about, something is going to tip, and that will be the caveat to everything else tipping. And some of it's big. I mean, I think we are on the doorstep of World War III. I think we're on the doorstep of civil unrest. You said November 6th to watch. I mean, I think the bigger threat is before installation, around the middle of January.
Yeah.
I'd be where you're going to be. I'd be near your family. I mean, and it's all so interwoven at this point.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a really good point. And I've been doing this, like I said, a really long time. And it is, there's so many more things. You talk about 10, we could probably rattle off 100 and not even break a sweat. And we don't know, is it going to be a big event, a little event? What's the event that starts these dominoes to fall? I think that's the only thing that we don't know. What the problem is there's so many of them now. It's a matter of when versus if. And you mentioned war. I'll just say, usually when there's a big change in monetary policy, especially since central banks have been in power going back to the 1400s, usually war is what does it. When you think you mentioned Bretton Woods, that was World War II, right? That's when everybody had to use dollars. People don't understand